At issue this Sunday morning, spending responsibly, the strategies you can use this holiday shopping season to avoid going into debt, and reducing the burden of property taxes. An expert shares ways homeowners can save money. And saying goodbye. Longtime NBC10 anchor Tracy Davidson anchored her final broadcast this past week. But before she did, she sat down with me to take a look back at the stories she did that made the biggest impact.
NBC10 at Issue starts now.
I'm Mayk. Welcome to NBC10 at Issue. The holiday shopping season is now off and running. We've been through Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. Cyber Monday is still on deck for tomorrow. A new poll from Deloitte shows shoppers plan to spend 4% less between Black Friday and Cyber Monday this year. That's a reversal from the past 4 years when people said they planned to spend more than the previous year. Shoppers said economic concerns and the higher costs of living were the reasons that they're cutting back. Meantime, the National Retail Federation predicts this shopping season will set a new record, topping $1 trillion for the first time. There are ways to shop and be financially responsible at the same time. And for more, we're joined by financial advisor Jamie Hopkins. He is the CEO of Bryn Mawr Trust. Jamie, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's great to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
So we are at the beginning of December. So we really have the whole month ahead of us. And it's a month where folks can sometimes get into trouble. There is a lot that we want to be able to do in this month. So let's just sort of set the stage. And with the whole month ahead of you, what are some of the things that you would do at the beginning right now?
Yeah, so one thing I think at the beginning of this month is to break things into what I'll call buckets of how you might spend money. And there's one that kind of creeps up on people, so I call it gifting, right? Then you have your gathering and then giving, and they're really three, although two of them sound similar. But the gathering one, I think, is the one that creeps up on people. You might be driving more to see relatives, holiday parties, right? Getting together for happy hours after work, and all of a sudden, you're buying a little bit more at those things, right? Even just the travel associated with it. So I do think your normal expenses tend to jump up in December over other months, just from eating out and all these other things. Even when you're shopping, you might get coffee while you're shopping. That's another $5, $7 that you weren't planning for that day. So thinking about how do I increase my normal spending and then deal for these other two, which are all the gifts I want to give people. That's really where we're going to get in trouble here if we overbuy in that bucket. But then the giving part too. I went to 2 grocery stores today looking for something and checked out twice, and both times like, hey, do you want to give $5 for the local food bank? That adds up really quickly too. If you're going every week, that could be hundreds of dollars in a month. So thinking about these 3 buckets, giving some money that you feel that you can spend in them, and then sticking to this budget is going to be really, really crucial. A lot of people don't like that term budgeting, but I think in this month, maybe even more so than the whole year, it is really crucial because if we overspend, we leave ourselves in January with all that pain and stress about how are we going to pay for this.
Yeah, you can stick to a budget, but if the budget was probably not realistic for you in the beginning, then you're still going to be in trouble. How do you figure out what you can really afford?
Yeah, absolutely. So one good way to look at that is look at what you spent last month. Like, that's a very good starting point. I'm always amazed that most people have no idea what they really spend in 1 month. What they kind of know is they get about X amount from their paycheck, and most of that's gone by the end of the month. So they're thinking, I spend about what my paychecks are. But it's probably a little bit more nuanced than that. You might have one-off expenses, different months. And so really take a first look at what am I going to just spend this month? And then do I have savings that I can spend for gifts or giving? And if I don't, then what am I going to do to, actually afford this, which means I'm probably going to be using credit cards. And how much do I reasonably feel like I could pay back in January, in February, and March? Because what you don't want to get in the habit of doing is spending an extra $2,000 you don't have, and then carrying that debt with you for the entire year, because then you're really spending like $2,400, which is very different. And it snowballs and you never really get out of this debt situation, which does plague millions of Americans. We just get stuck in debt and can't dig ourselves back out.
If you are going to be using credit cards for something, is there a best way to approach it in terms of use credit cards for this and not this, or use them at the beginning of the month and not the end of the month? What's the most responsible way to use them in this period?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a lot of differences of opinions on this. So I don't know that there is exactly a best way to do it, a little bit of what works for you. So there are people who say, look, use cash for holiday shopping. Figure out what your budget is. You're going to spend $500. Get cash out, use that, and then you likely will limit yourself to that $500. But as you and I were talking about before, maybe you only spent $4 and there's an extra $100 in there, then you're probably going to use up the whole extra $100.
If it's there, a lot of people are like, well, there's still money left in the envelope, so I'm going to spend it.
Yeah. But it does happen with credit, and that's why credit cards have been so popular. It's so easy. We tap it, we move on. We don't have to worry about it today. We leave that problem for ourselves in the future. So it really is about setting a budget and sticking to it. There are people that will go and say, hey, look, I'm only going to use this for the first couple weeks of my shopping, right? Maybe go out on Black Friday and the first couple weeks, and I'll use it then. But then I'm going to put it away, right? Like, I'm not going to go out shopping again with my credit card. So this creep of additional purchases doesn't kind of keep moving upwards. So I think that's a good strategy. But our credit cards are tied to so many automatic things now. I think this is going to get more and more challenging for consumers to manage this. I saw on Amazon, right, on the TV screen, you can now buy things with your remote control on the screen and it ships to you, right? Like, that's
easy.
That's really easy. Like, you're not even thinking, I have to get out my credit card and tap something. You can just hit the OK button on your screen and it's going to ship to you. So it's going to take a lot more control and discipline than it ever has before. I think the other part, though, is buy things that give you happiness and that you think are going to give the people who you're gifting to happiness and joy. If it's stressing you out, be creative. Don't go buy something. Offer them lunch or brunch later in the future. I think we've talked about this before. I think that's a great way to spread out this cost is if it's your sister, say, hey, let's go to brunch. She's probably not going to brunch December 15th, so you can then deal with that bill in January or February when it actually comes up. It does allow you to spread out some of this gifting instead of just buying gift cards or other things.
What if you are just feeling real stressed already right now, and you just, quite frankly, want to spend less this year? You said, look at what you spent last year. What if you say, I really can't spend that much this year? Are there ways that you can really just pare that down?
Yeah, and this is something I think a lot of Americans should decide to do, and people here in Philadelphia, is inflation was high the last couple of years. The cost of goods are very expensive, right? Credit card debt has been rising again because, cost of living is not keeping up with it. So it's okay to tell yourself, it's not the right thing for me to do to spend this year. What I would tell people then is also to reach out to the family or friends that they feel that social pressure of spending on, and just be upfront and honest. Say, hey, look, I'm cutting back on gifts this year. I hope you understand. And they might have the same relief, right? They're like, oh, I'm so thankful that you said this because I really didn't want to buy a lot of stuff this year. So I would say be proactive on that so you relieve that social pressure, because a lot of this is, I feel like I need to get somebody something. I hear that all the time. Like, I feel like I need to buy my nieces and nephews something. You don't need to, right? You either want to and can afford, or have the conversation that you just don't want to do it this year. And that doesn't mean having to say, hey, look, I'm in debt. It can just say, look, it's been a lot this year. I don't really want to spend as much money. And people are very forgiving and understanding of that, and I think it relieves a lot of stress.
Have the conversation. All right, Jamie Hopkins, thank you for having this conversation with us. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Paying less in property taxes. There are some ways homeowners can save. Just ahead, an expert outlines some solutions you can consider.
This is NBC10 at Issue.
Property taxes. Throughout the campaign for New Jersey governor, I heard from lots of voters who were concerned about rising property taxes. In addition to what elected officials can do, there are some things that you can do to reduce the burden on your own. And for more, we're now joined by Scott Reidenbach, the founding principal of Reidenbach and Associates. Thanks so much for being here, Scott.
Thank you for having me.
So let's sort of take this into batches in terms of where you are in life. If you are where you are, you have a home that you love, you want to stay there, and you don't expect to be moving anytime soon, what are some things that you can consider that might make that burden a little bit easier for your family?
Well, there are three main things. So the obvious one is to file an appeal. So tax appeals are very common. You can do it once a year if you like. I wouldn't suggest that, but you can appeal your taxes. But number two, you can verify the data on your house is accurate. Make sure the taxing authorities have the proper square footage, any improvements that have been made to the property, number of bedrooms, make sure the data is proper and accurate. And the other thing you can do is make sure you apply for all the exemptions. So there's a homestead exemption, there are property exemptions for seniors, veterans, and even disabled persons.
Are those exemptions all things that you could get right away in your home, or do you have to be there for a certain amount of time?
Well, some are right away and some are more time. So the homestead exemption has a requirement to be in the house as your primary residence, and you own it for a certain period of time. But the other ones for veterans and seniors can be applied for right away.
And for folks who maybe are thinking, hey, I might be ready to move, and I don't want property taxes to be a huge burden when I get to my new home. What are some of the things that you should consider as you're making your decisions?
It might sound simplistic, but one option is to rent and not buy. So if you want to avoid taxes altogether, you can rent your property. Number two is buy an older house and not new construction. New construction is taxed at a higher rate because the value is known. It's a brand new house. Another thing is buy a property in a lower taxed area or neighborhood. I mean, taxes vary shockingly from neighborhood to neighborhood, town to town. So maybe buy somewhere that's less heavily taxed. Those are three good options right there.
So in terms of the new construction, so you might be in a neighborhood that has some new construction and maybe some older construction, and there's a difference right there between them?
There is, because the older homes are assessed at older values. I mean, shockingly, in most counties in Pennsylvania, the assessed values date back to the 1990s, whereas new construction is taxed right away because they know exactly the market value of that property. It's just been constructed.
How often are you hearing from people? I know I heard from a lot of people, especially as I was in New Jersey for the reporting on the governor's race. But how often do you hear from people with asking, how do I lower my property taxes?
You know, every day. I mean, we handle appeals on a routine basis. So every day our clients are concerned because it is a big number. I mean, the mortgage is high, but the taxes are getting higher. So it's really compounding the problems for most taxpayers.
Scott, we're going to have to leave it there for now. Thanks so much for your perspective and your tips.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Signing off, longtime NBC10 anchor Tracy Davidson said goodbye to NBC10 this past week. Before she did, I sat down with her to talk about some of her most memorable and meaningful moments.
This is NBC10 at Issue.
This past week, we here at NBC10 said goodbye to a longtime member of our team. On Tuesday, after 29 years, Tracy Davidson anchored her final newscast. Before that last broadcast, Philadelphia City Council surprised Tracy with a citation award for all of her years serving the Philadelphia area. She is now embarking on a new chapter. But before she left, I had a chance to sit down with her to take a look back. Tracy, it is so good to sit down with you. We have been spending time here at NBC10 celebrating you and reminiscing about all your work here. Yeah. What has it been like for you to just sort of take this time and look back and appreciate this journey?
It's been incredible to think all the way back to covering the Atlanta Olympics with Vi in 1996, creating the Great Shredder events. I mean, all of it up till now. And there's so many great things happening in the city, and I am a little bit sorry that I'm not going to be here for 2026, but I will be in the city celebrating with everybody else.
You're going to be just a different part of the celebration.
That's right.
Well, I'm not going to make you go through all of your memories, but I do want to talk about some of them. And you mentioned that Olympics with Vi. That was so early on, but remind people of what you went through and how you sort of brought everyone along with you in what turned out to be an unexpected story.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what our news director was thinking, because Vi and I were very new, and he sent both of us to Atlanta to cover the Olympics. And
this was back in 1996.
1996, and I would co-anchor the 5 o'clock news from Centennial Park every night, and he was covering obviously all the sports events, and we had just gotten back into our hotel room after our 11 p.m. hits, and I had a knock on the door from the photographer saying we got to go. And so we were all running back into Centennial Park as people were still running out. And fast forward, I learned that the bag had been placed under a bench that at the base of a light tower that I always chose as my favorite place. We could choose our place to go live from. There were 4 different locations within Centennial Park. I always picked that one because it was in the shade and there was a bench that I could sit on to write all my scripts for the 5 o'clock news. But we really didn't know what we were going into. We just knew about the explosion. And then we gathered video and reaction, and then we went back to our workspace, and NBC10 just said, we're just putting you on TV, just talk and tell us what you saw, the people that you talked with. And Vi and I became instant friends, because once you have to stay on TV through the night and talk about something that no one could have imagined, especially back then, you instantly become pretty close.
Yeah. How did covering that then influence sort of what happened next for you here at NBC10? You mentioned you and Vi became very close. How did that, when you experience something like that, it changes your perspective?
It changed your perspective, and it was sort of a God wink. As horrible as it was, I know that Vi and I and then the rest of the team jumped into action. So it was really a pretty quick trial by fire, and I had the affirmation that this is what I want to do. I want to bring information to people.
One of the things that we've looked back on in your time here were those shredder events, which were before my time. Mm-hmm. I wasn't here yet. But as I've been hearing people talk about them, the thing that struck me about them was just a simple ability to recognize the need for something and recognize something on the ground, which is, as reporters, is something we all do just in different forms. When we go out to a community, we try to take the temperature of what's going on. Tell me what you recognized there and how that came about.
It seemed like every day we were getting emails from viewers who were having their identities stolen. And back in 2002, 2003, 2004, they were stealing it the old-fashioned way. They were going through people's garbage cans. In fact, I think we even had interviews with investigators who said that they had talked to people who had been arrested, and they said, sure, we just get, dump people's garbage and go through it. And so we were saying every day, shred, shred, shred. But we kept looking around and thinking, well, number one, not everybody has a shredder. Number two, even if you do have a shredder, the amount of information that comes into your home every day that has a credit card number on it, that has your social security number on it, it's a lot. And so it took a little while to develop that idea, and my colleagues at the time would laugh at me because I'd said, well, what if we just went and got 5 of them, 5 shredders from Staples, and we'd set it up in the NBC10 parking lot? Okay, I think you've gone crazy. But then I started contacting the commercial shredders, and they thought I was crazy too, because I said, would you come to a parking lot and do it free for individual consumers? And that's how it was born.
As you have had your journey here at NBC10, you've also shared your personal journey as well, and your personal health journey. How has that, how did opening up to the viewers here affect your relationship with the community here?
Well, I think I've always had a good relationship, and not only just on the set and with the lens between us, but being out in the community and being involved. It was hard for me to decide to tell my breast cancer story, because I never want the news to be about me. I'm just the conduit, just like you are. We just go out and gather the news, and then we bring it to people. But then I thought, if I could help one person, if one person listens to my message, don't wait about getting screened for anything, whatever it is that you're due to be screened for. And I learned that I did help people to get the screening that they need to catch the breast cancer in many cases.
That was a service as well. And for those who have never gotten an email from Tracy Davidson, I will let people in on the fact that it ends with the words, "here to serve," which really just so encapsulates you.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I've always wanted to do. And that's what I'll continue to do.
You have done it here. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you. For a look back on Tracy's career and legacy, check out our special article on NBC10.com or the NBC10 app. You can find it right on our homepage.
Today, natural hair is protected.
Ending hair discrimination. The action Pennsylvania took this week to protect workers and students.
This is NBC 10 at Issue.
Pennsylvania now joins New Jersey and Delaware in banning discrimination based on a person's hair type, texture, or style. Governor Josh Shapiro signed the Crown Act into law this past week. This was at the Island Design Natural Hair Studio in West Philadelphia. CROWN stands for Create a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. The bill bans discrimination in schools and the workplace based on hairstyles.
Today, natural hair is protected. Every coil, every kink, every curl. And on this day, my message is simply this: your hair is perfect as it is.
With the governor's signature, Pennsylvania becomes the 28th state to adopt this type of legislation. That does it for this edition of NBC 10 at Issue. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.